Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Andrew Brown. I am the Associate Director for Freshman Recruitment here at Azusa Pacific University. We are so grateful and excited you have joined us this evening. We have a panel of, actually a perfectly balanced panel of 2 faculty and 2 current students to talk through the school programs, biology, chemistry, allied health, biochem. We are excited for you. Before we get going, wanted to mention kind of how this is going to operate. Probably about first 20 minutes, Dr. Chen is going to go over the overview of what do these programs look like and what do these programs look like specifically at APU? How do we set you up to study well, go to school well, graduate well, and get into jobs or graduate programs you want to be in. And then for the next 40 minutes, we are going to talk through questions. So please feel free, you've got a Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Feel free to click on that, send us any and all of your questions. If it is admissions related, we actually have an admissions counselor, Angelica Madera, who will answer those. She'll type those answers. And if it's specifically related to bio and chem, and the programs, we'll save those and we'll ask them. So the more questions we have, the more lively of a discussion we'll have later on in the event. So feel free to put those there. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dr. Chen.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Here we go. So I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce you to the programs that we have in the Department of Biology and Chemistry. Here you see a photograph of our science building. And from there, in our department, we have 4 major programs: biology, chemistry, allied health, and biochemistry. Within those, I want to talk briefly about what they're about and how that you can think about how that might align with your interests. The biology degree is a BS, and it's actually pretty wide-ranging. For that reason, we've split our biology program into 5 emphases. And this is, you would choose one emphasis at some point during your college career. There's the ecological emphasis, microbiological, molecular, neurobiological, and organismal. Right? The biology degree is set up to, on one hand, to prepare you if you're interested in becoming a doctor. It gives you excellent pre-med preparation, pre-dental. It also sets people up for careers in conservation biology, pre-vet. You're interested in pursuing grad school to do research, to become a scientist, or to work, say, in biotech or industry, or even in the environmental sectors. Okay. So that's biology, the study of the living world and the study of God's creation. We also have a bachelor's in chemistry in a similar vein, giving you a solid background in the major types of chemistry to prepare you for careers in laboratory, potentially working in a laboratory, working as a scientist, teaching, or perhaps preparing you to go on for further study in graduate school. Biochemistry actually has 2 tracks within its BS. There's a research track that prepares you. So if you're the type of person who in high school, you have a love both of biology, of living things, and of the chemical world, chemistry is also your thing as well, you might want to consider biochemistry, where you take courses in both areas. And with that, if you're interested in becoming a scientist and to do research and to conduct biochemical research, perhaps work for pharmaceutical companies and things like that, we have a research track that prepares you for careers in biotech, pharmaceuticals, other types of scientific research, and also prepares you for graduate school. And we also have a pre-med track to prepare you for medical school, to apply to medical school or to dental school. And in fact, today, one of our panelists is a current biochemistry major who is in pre-dental. Okay. Lastly, we have the allied health major. This is our, I guess you could call this our dedicated pre-health or professionally focused major. Okay. The philosophy of the allied health major is designed to allow you to choose the courses that you need to prepare yourself to get into certain health schools. For example, if you want to become a physical therapist and apply to physical therapy programs, the BA track of allied health is a great way to prepare. Occupational therapy, or preparing to go on to study nursing. There's a business emphasis within the BA track. If some of you are interested in studying both medical, I guess the environment of the hospital environment and also the administrative side of health services. On the BS side of things, the Allied Health BS track prepares students to apply to PA school to become physician's assistants, or perhaps to apply for public health, master's in public health programs. And we also have an option for integrated teaching credential. If you're open to potentially teaching elementary or secondary school science and biology, this would be a great way to get an integrated teaching credential while studying the biological sciences. So what are some of the things that make our programs here at APU unique? What would you get if you come here as an APU student? Well, majority of our classes are small classes. That means that you have access to us professors, and we are eager to get to know you, okay? The relationship between that you have with professors is much more direct than you might get perhaps in a larger school. Our coursework, however, is still rigorous. We prepare you well for programs, grad schools, med school, et cetera, that you might apply to in the future. The atmosphere of our department is family-like. Even though it's a kind of medium-sized school, in our department, we still have the philosophy that it's like a family. There's a community here within our department of students studying alongside each other, helping each other as you are helping each other as you're working through your classes, doing papers and exams. And we faculty really look forward to interacting with each of you, because as we are teaching and just even walking around the building, we are interacting with you, okay? We do one-on-one advising. You have the opportunity for one-on-one advising with faculty in our department. And so we can advise you in terms of career exploration. If you're not sure exactly where you want to go yet, college is a journey. And so with that, we are happy to work with you and mentor you and help you find your path. And we also make sure that our classes are not impacted, so you can take the courses that you need to graduate on time. A couple other unique things. You'll notice that some of the photographs here on these slides show actual APU students. These are not stock photos. These are actual photographs from our building of APU students doing research in the labs. We have an excellent on-campus research program and opportunity for you guys to have hands-on research experiences, whether that's in a separate research program or within the labs of the classes that you're taking for your major. We have numerous outreach programs, some opportunities to serve our local community in terms of STEM outreach. We also do have certain programs that might, be perhaps a bit like medical missions related as well, if you're interested in medical missions. For the students that are accepted into our pre-med and pre-dental track, there's a special pre-dental pre-med track that exists alongside our majors. We have some of the highest acceptance rates to various graduate programs and med schools. We also have connections to businesses and clinics around the area, so we can offer you access to internships. And as you'll hear perhaps from some of the students on campus, we have campus clubs and events for our majors for you to participate in and to engage in community and share and grow in various passions, okay? With that, I just want to encourage you. Right now, we're going to have a time of open Q&A and discussion. But if you have questions that come up later, please feel free to reach out to us. You can email us at biology and chemistry at apu.edu for more general curriculum-related questions. Michelle Pilch is our administrative assistant. She'll be happy to answer your questions and assist you. Or you can reach out directly to me, Dr. Chen, as well as some of the other panelists. Their email addresses are here as well. Okay. And so with that, I'd like to end the presentation. We can switch back over to the panel. Andrew.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So now that we kind of have some of the overview, the basics out of the way, let's first start just by introducing ourselves. If you wouldn't mind saying your name, what you either teach or what you study, and then maybe how long you've been with APU, at APU. So Dr. Chen, I think you covered most of that.
Actually, maybe I haven't actually said anything about myself.
I was trying to think, I was like, wait, did he say? Well, you go first.
Okay, so my name is Charles Chen. You can call me Dr. Chen. I am a plant ecophysiologist. So my expertise is in ecology, global change, climate change, and plant physiology. I also deal a little bit with agriculture and food security. And I've been here at APU for about 7 years now.
Awesome, thank you. Now we'll go over to Dr. Huang.
Hi, I'm Dr. Huang. I've been here for 15 years. I teach organic chemistry.
Perfect. Now let's go, Lauren.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren. I am currently a junior at APU. We'll be graduating this December, and I am an allied health major, psychology minor, and specifically the BA of allied health.
Thank you. And then Robert.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert. I'm a senior right now, graduating in a couple months. And then I'm a biochemistry major and technically a double major with honors humanities. And then I'm starting dental school this fall.
I was going to say, if you didn't say you're going to start dental school, I was definitely going to call you out and say, he just got admitted into dental school. That's a really big deal. It actually leads into, yes, please. It leads into the first question that appeared in our chat. A student is wondering is, what are the acceptance rates to medical school, whether it's the pre-med track or pre-dental track? Do we have stats on that?
We do have stats. I don't know the number on top of my head, but it's above 90% for medical school. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's the number I've heard as well. And we can, Angelica on the chat, we can actually get those numbers and send it to you. Wanted to start with that number because it's just very impressive. From our small class sizes to the amount of time you get to know faculty, they really want to, pour in and get to know you. So next question that often I find people are wondering, I wondered as I was applying is, being a Christian school, what does faith integration look like in the classroom? I personally was a theology major, so that's the study of God. So it kind of happened naturally. But a lot of people think that sciences and faith may be even opposed. Would you mind speaking to that? We'll start with you, Dr. Huang. Oh, I think your microphone's off.
Sorry, my computer just went on and off. Can you repeat that again?
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So would you mind speaking to faith integration in the classroom at APU?
Yeah, so faith integration for APU, what we do is we learn about how science and faith, they work with each other. So we read books and also we look at some of the topics that are outside right now. So about science and scientific topics. So, and the goal is to help students to challenge them to see from a Christian perspective, what does science look like? So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Chin.
Yes. From a broader perspective, and you've noticed, right, if you can see in the background, in my background, right, we have it literally on the side of our science building, especially from the perspective of biology. We believe that when we're studying nature, we're studying God's good creation, and when we're training our students, we think about, we are looking at it from the perspective of equipping students to do good work. If it's in medical school or dental school, etc., right? It's in the work of healing. If it's more from the perspective of studying the natural world and from an ecological perspective, We build the foundations in our class across our classes to build an appreciation for the beauty and complexity of God's creation, but also the responsibility that we have to take care of it, And I think as personally, like from in my own field, it's one of my personal passions to teach about the relationship between taking care of the environment and God's creation and how that actually ties into loving our neighbors. Because especially from a public health perspective, when the environment suffers, our neighbors suffer as well, and their health suffers as well. From a broader perspective, and even bringing in some of the more deeper theological and ethical links, there are opportunities within our programs as well, especially in the capstone course, the senior seminar course, for students to be challenged to ask a scientific question, but then to consider the theological implications and ethical implications of that question. So in the sciences, we were going to teach you what the newest technology is, how things work, right? But we're not going to just say, you're not only going to learn how things work, you're also going to learn about like, well, okay, so this is what science can do, but what should science do? How can we use the power we've been given?
Yeah.
In the context of, say, bioethics or even environmental stewardship.
Thank you very much. Yeah, one of my favorite authors we were talking about before this is kind of Wendell Berry, who's a conservationist, and he says that there's only two types of land: sacred and desecrated. And I think I think that for me points to this balance between faith and science and the interdependence of both. Robert, would you mind sharing your experience?
Yeah, so I can talk about like the student experience with this kind of faith integration stuff.
Definitely.
So at first it might sound like, okay, like it's a little bit of extra work, like for your science classes. But it's actually like, it's not just busy work, it's actually like really cool and like really integrated to the classes. Like, obviously I've had a couple of classes where the faith integration has been like kind of mad, but I'd say like at least, 3/4 of the time, it's like either like really cool discussions with the class or like a really cool like paper that like actually connects to like these cool scientific topics that you're learning in class, and just helps you like think about it in like a totally different way that kind of ties in like culture, philosophy, faith. Yeah, so like when I was a student in your guys' shoes, I remember thinking like, oh, it kind of sounds like extra work, and it's a little bit of extra work, but it's actually so cool. And like some of the coolest assignments and kind of like things I've learned the most have been from those faith integration assignments.
Great, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Lauren.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Robert that the faith integration aspect of these classes is really cool and really unique, I feel like, to APU. And just one example is last semester, I took a class called Biology and Christian Thought, and it was for a whole semester. We got to talk about evolution and creation and what the Bible says about that and what other Christians view about that topic. So that was just one example of how a class combines the science and the Christian aspects of it that I really ended up enjoying.
That's great. Thank you. So I've got two pretty practical nuts and bolts questions. The first one probably would go towards Robert, but anyone can jump in. Is there a significant difference between the pre-dental routes of biology and biochemistry?
Yeah, I can answer that one. So I'm a biochem major and I just applied to dental school this last cycle, like this current cycle. And my experience was like I hit all the prereqs like for almost all the dental schools except for a few. And like I didn't even know I wanted to apply to dental school when I started, and especially like when I was a biochem major. I only realized that like a couple years ago when I'd already taken like a lot of classes. But both majors fit pretty well within like, the prerequisites for dental school. I think the biology major is probably better because there's like a couple of schools that require like anatomy and like some other classes that like I hadn't taken yet. But I think like it depends on the school, but like in general, that like almost every school I saw, most of the schools I applied to, I already had all the prereqs just by being a biochem major. So I'd probably recommend biology, but you can't really go wrong with either.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Another kind of nuts and bolts question is getting into grad school, getting into careers entering college, a lot of times students don't know exactly what they want to do. They just know that they enjoy biology, they enjoy chemistry, or they enjoy science in general. As faculty, how do you advise students? How do you help them realize what their lane is? And then after, maybe Dr. Chin, if you want to go, and then Dr. Huang afterwards, Lauren, specifically, how did you realize what you wanted to do? What was that process like for you?
I think, at least when I advise students, one, I ask them, so for any of our majors, students start with introductory level courses. And those courses, whether it's general biology or general chemistry, are pretty broad. They cover a lot of different topics. And one of the ways in which I approach advising is oftentimes to try to find, where is that intersection between what grabs your interest or your passion, intersected with what you're good at, intersected with perhaps where the needs are. So considering the job market as well, right? And understanding that conversation is also something that changes over time as students take more courses. Beyond that, in the course of advising, sometimes as I hear students share about their ideas and thoughts, sometimes that triggers something I've seen somewhere else. And then I might just drop some suggestions or just share with them some things from out of the blue and see if that strikes their interest or not.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for students want to look for career, I think sometimes the classes when they take it, and sometimes like us faculty, we try to tell them about different career paths. So either in the classes or in advising, just tell them what are some of the career paths. And sometimes through, usually students like maybe their second year, first year is more like exploratory, and then second year, then they start maybe doing like internship or maybe volunteer at a hospital or do research with one of our faculty. Then they realize, oh, maybe this might be a path for me. So I think it's usually like, it's more exploratory. It's a process for the students.
That's great. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention, just building on what Dr. Huang just said, one of the distinctives of our classes, especially the first couple of years, is that whether it's biology or chemistry, anatomy or physiology, there's a lab component, right? A lab associated with it. And so that means, as opposed to just learning it in a book, you also get to experience it hands-on. And when doing it hands-on, that kind of, like, some people, they take microbiome and they do the microbiome lab. They're like, hey, perhaps, I kind of like doing this, working with well, in this case, bacterial cultures and other things, right? And sometimes through the process of trying things out while they're here, if you think you might be interested in something, we encourage you to go out and try it, or try it alongside us in your classes, or doing research with a faculty member, or doing an internship or something.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And then, yeah, Lauren, how did you find out? And I don't know if you said you're allied health, but I don't know if you shared what you're going into. Would you mind saying what you're planning to go into next, and how did you discover that?
Yes, yeah, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but I am going into occupational therapy is the end goal. And in terms of how I went about kind of picking that, I came into college kind of between OT and PT, not really 100% set on one. And for me, there was two main things that kind of confirmed OT. The first was just shadowing at different clinics and different places, and just seeing that real life experience. And actually one of the APU professors in the biology department was able to connect me to a lot of places to shadow. So that was really helpful. And the second thing that kind of confirmed that is when I took anatomy and we learned about the nervous system unit. To me, that was just one of the most interesting subjects I had learned of so far. And so OT has a lot more kind of neuro components to it than PT. So that's kind of how I settled on OT.
That's great. That's wonderful. One of the things I always wonder, I have a good friend who's now an ears, nose, and throat doctor. And this is probably my question for Robert, is how do you pick dentistry? Like, how did that happen? Out of everything you could study, all the different sciences, all the different parts of the body, of different types of medical areas, how did you end up in dentistry? And how do you prepare? How do you feel? How prepared do you feel as you are getting ready to leave APU and start dental school?
Yeah, so when I came to APU, like my freshman year, I had no clue like I wanted to do dentistry or like anything healthcare related. But I really liked science. So like I started as a biology major, and then as I like was taking more classes, I realized I kind of like chemistry too. So then I became a biochem major. Um, but I guess like in terms of like specifically for dentistry, it was kind of informed by like a lot of different things. I remember just like visiting my dentist and like thinking, oh, like, oh, this is really cool. Like this is awesome. And then also like there was a couple of APU events. I don't remember exactly what they're called, and like I'm assuming they're still happening in like online, but this was back when we were in person.
Mm-hmm.
There was like events where like I think it was Loma Linda school came, and like they presented all these different health professions and stuff, and like you got to talk to a lot of different people. And then they had a slide for dentistry, and it was like, if you like all these things, you'd be perfect for dentistry. And I was like, wait, I like all those things. Yeah, so there's a lot of things, like kind of my own personal experience, but then also like some things at APU. And then for the second part of that question, how prepared do I feel? I feel very, 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 very prepared. And like I have a lot of friends that go to other schools, and that like apply to med schools, apply to dental schools, like they go to UCs, other Christians, other private schools, Christian schools, whatever. Honestly, I think my education at APU has prepared me a lot better than like how it sounds like their educations have prepared them. Because like at UC schools, like not every science class is a lab. Like you're not going to know your professors as much. And I feel like it's like those one-on-one interactions with my professors, like in office hours, or the fact that like almost every science class at APU like has a lab, has really prepared me well and like just kind of really solidified that knowledge. Yeah, so I feel super, like very, very super prepared. And I think a lot of that has to do like with APU specifically.
Yeah. No, thank you. Well, I'll keep it with you for a second. One of the questions that came in is, how difficult is it to balance a major in the sciences with honors humanities? Has that been impossible? I mean, clearly you're graduating, so it's not impossible, but what's been your experience with that?
Yeah, it's totally 100% doable. And it, like if you're kind of on the cusp of thinking about doing honors or not, I would 110% recommend honors. I can maybe talk about this later even, but honors has honestly been one of like my best experiences at APU.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it, and it's definitely doable with science. And the thing is, like, you can major or you can minor in honors. And like a lot of science people, what they'll do is they'll just minor. So it's like less units, less work. But like I'm doing the major, and like I've never felt, super overwhelmed or anything like because of honors. So I think it's definitely doable, and I think it's definitely worthwhile. And if you're on the cusp of like debating whether to do it or not, I would 110% recommend doing honors.
Okay. And then thank you. And Lauren, I've got another one of those like one part student question, one part faculty question. Lauren, would you mind speaking to, because you're a psychology minor, right? Okay. Would you speak to just the complementary nature of what does having a minor outside of the science field, what does that give you as you prepare for grad school? And then after you answer, I'll have a question similar for faculty.
Yeah, the psychology minor is very helpful and complements the allied health BA major specifically very well. For me, the reason I wanted to pursue that is because one, I just really find the psychology classes interesting, and I took human growth and development, and that's what kind of made me want to pick a psychology minor as well. But then also it is very applicable for the grad school that I will be going to. So for example, I took a abnormal psychology class. And so that was learning just about different developmental disabilities and that kind of stuff. And so it has been really applicable to the different classes that I'm also in within biology and classes that I probably will take in grad school as well.
That's great. Along those lines, faculty, have you seen like common minors students have within your program? Are there any common complementary minors, or do students kind of come in with just a lot of different types all over?
I'll chime in. So yeah, psychology is a popular one. What else? Sometimes like for biology majors, they also do like a chemistry minor. right? Stuff like that. So yeah, so psychology, chemistry, the honors, sometimes they do that as well. So yeah, so those are the ones I've seen. Dr. Chen, what do you think?
At least at APU, I've had a few of my research students in the past have done minors in biblical studies.
Oh yeah.
Part of the opportunity, I suppose, at the school. One of the things I'll also mention alongside that question is that, and because I do see one other question also in the chat. Some of amongst our different programs, there's more flexibility in some programs than others. For example, especially like in Lauren's case, I think the Allied Health BA gives you a lot of flexibility, overlaps very well with psychology, doesn't it? Right? Whereas to some degree, the biochemistry major has requirements in both biology and chemistry that it basically kind of means you're kind of splitting it down the middle, right? So as opposed to being able to go too far out into chemistry or bio, well, I mean, so you could probably take any chemistry class, but there might be some biology classes that might be too far out from your major, right? And so from that perspective, and just, I think that's one thing to consider if someone's interested in or considering biology, for example, versus biochemistry as a pre-med major. If you're primarily interested in the biological sciences element of it, and if analytical chemistry, if quantitative chemistry is not interesting to you, or even sounds like I don't want to take that, then it'd be better to be biology than biochemistry, perhaps. Because then you'd have more opportunity to pick more biology electives versus taking chemistry courses. Yes, I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a detour there.
No, detours are what makes conversations fun. If we didn't need detours, we'd just read things all the time and that'd be boring. So a question we had is, what companies can students get internships at in biology and chemistry programs at APU? Are there common companies? And I might add a second question to that, or what research opportunities are there for students in the program?
Cool. So those are two pretty big questions.
Yeah, we can
split those up.
We'll split. Okay, so first we'll do internship, and then after we answer everything, we'll do research opportunities.
Okay, so internships. There are a few health-related internships that I've seen a lot of students go through, for starters. One is Cope Health Scholars. I've seen a good number of students go through that, right? I believe also on more on the research or science side of it, we do have some links to and some connections to some biotech companies. It's right now we're talking about undergraduate, but there is a master's program at APU in biotechnology, and the director of that program, David Dyer, has direct connections to various biotech companies around Southern California. We have I'm not sure if we've had undergraduates intern at Gilead, have we? And we have? Okay, thank you, Kevin. As one example. And I also have one connection to an agricultural chemical company, actually, down the road in Monrovia, who are also looking for interns actively as well. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
That's great. I think Lauren, did you mention you got hours, clinical hours? Would you mind talking more in depth about what that looks like?
Yeah, so for most grad schools that the allied health major people are pursuing, there is a certain minimum like hours you need to be able to apply to grad school. And so one of my professors connected me to another student who had just done her OT hours nearby. And so I started back last semester and I'm still shadowing once a week at an occupational therapy like hand clinic. And so it's really great to be able to get that experience. And I know there's a lot of other students who do different types of shadowing and clinical hours. And so it's really easy to ask around and just try to get referrals to different places.
That's great. Now, any other comments about internships? before we move on to research? Yeah, Dr. Huang.
Oh yeah, just want to mention again, so we do have Dr. Dave Dyer, who's in charge of the Master's in Biotechnology. He has lots of connections to different companies. And so from there, we actually have, so we have internship programs. So we're students, we can try to apply to those companies. I just wanted to add that.
Mhm. That's great. Now moving, we have two students who are both going to grad school. So this probably is a very prevalent question. Research, having research as undergrads can be very difficult to get, especially research where your name is attached to potentially a journal article or attached to projects. Talk to me about that at APU. Are there opportunities for students to do real world research, or is it kind of like an easy bake oven, kind of like pretend research, preparing you for someday? Let's start. Yeah, Dr. Chin, if you wouldn't mind starting again.
I guess I can see where this ties into the internship question, because we have a summer program every summer here at APU within our department that, in a sense, is an internship. The student to scholar internship program, where each faculty member takes on somewhere between multiple students actually each summer, and it's a paid internship. You will you have the opportunity then to work over the course of several weeks, working with the faculty member on a research project. Sometimes it's full-time, sometimes it's part-time, but it's a valuable opportunity to work directly with faculty. I personally went to a large public research school for undergrad. And I can tell you that the most undergrad research opportunity I got was just, it felt a little bit like washing dishes and raising vats of bacteria. It's more like a student worker is what it felt like, to be honest. And even then, I hardly got to talk to faculty. I was mainly working with grad students. But here in this program, we faculty directly mentor the students in the research internship. And some of us do the work directly on campus. Some of us have links to other places. So some students have done research with us in collaboration with City of Hope over in Duarte. And I think some research related to, tied to cancer immunotherapy in the past. Some of us have, I have links actually to a National Research Institute in Japan. So before I came to APU, my research focused on elevated CO2 and environmental change impacts on rice paddy ecosystems.
Wow.
And so I had the opportunity to take some of my APU research students over there in the summer to do field seasons and do some real research in the field. Dr. Huang, did you, I think you've had some.
So kind of like echoing what Dr. Chen was saying. So research at APU, we help students to focus on a hypothesis, and then they do the experiments. And then the most important part is dissemination. So to be able to present the idea, to articulate. So that's what schools like APU, we do that for the students. Most R1 Institute, the students are there just to help the grad students or the faculty. But for our students, we do want them to present. So they can present on campus. They also present at national and regional professional conferences. So it's really neat. And also recently, my students, we actually published a paper about our work. So it's been really exciting. And so students can see that writing a paper itself is also research. And so so it's more of a holistic view of research.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Robert, what's been your experience kind of as a student?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, honestly, I really think research is one of the best, like, strongest things about going to APU as a science major. And like, at least in my experience at APU, it's been like one of the best, like just one of the best things. And like Dr. Chen and Dr. Wong said, like it's one-on-one for the most part. Like it's you and the mentor, and like the experiments you're doing are like real experiments. Like they're not like kind of stupid, like made up, like, oh, this is just educational. Like they're actual, like, you know, research projects that are trying to get data that have real world applications. And yeah, it's just like, it's a lot of fun and you learn a lot, and it's a really good community. And like Dr. Chen was talking about, like the program over the summer, Like number one, that's paid, which is super, super cool. But
Yeah.
also, yeah, it's just like a lot of fun. Like you get to work with all the other students in the lab, and you get to work with the professors, and like they do a lot of fun events. And then during the semester, you more get like credits for it, which are also really helpful. I think like doing enough research kind of knocked out like one of my upper division science classes. So just honestly, like from every perspective, like from the education, the fun, the community, like just like, you know, getting paid, getting the credits, research is like so, so cool. And that's another thing that really separates APU from other schools. Like honestly, like my friends that are science majors that go to other schools are jealous because
Wow.
like their research experiences are like they're washing dishes or like they're helping like grad students. Like they're nothing like the experiences at APU. Yeah, and it's just really, really great. It's honestly just one of the best things about being a science
Yeah.
major.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed, I went to APU way back. Well, I look like I'm a freshman, but I actually graduated in 2015. And my dad is actually the head of the marketing department at Oklahoma State University. So it's a big state school at 25,000 college kids. And growing up, we never had college kids over to our house. He taught some juniors, mainly seniors. And then I get to APU and I am a theology major. So I take one science class, fundamentals of biology, and I get in the classroom and one of the heads of the biology department is teaching it. And so he has all of the experience. He has been at APU for forever. And then he has us over to his house. I went to 8 different professors' houses while I was a student at APU. And coming from more of, and I am a firm believer also there's amazing state schools and that it's not like this fight between, oh, you have to go small private or you have to go big state. Both have wonderful opportunities. So when I compare, I am in no way trying to say one is better than the other. But it was just so kind of shocking to me that the amount of access I had to professors. And one of the things I didn't realize, which I want to kind of send towards Lauren, is Lauren, would you mind just talking about the importance of having good letters of recommendation for grad school and the difference between knowing a professor maybe a year as a senior versus having known a professor for 4 years and how well they're able to both write recs and direct you towards the right fits for grad school?
Yeah, letters of rec has definitely always been something on my mind ever since I, picked occupational therapy, because from all of the OTs that I have talked to, it is a very like heavily weighted part of your application. Probably more than like the GRE and those types of things. So letters of rec are definitely something that are looked at very heavily by the graduate school. And so for me, it has been really easy to get to know professors, and it does take you making an effort. Like for me, one of the things I found is going to office hours was just so much fun for me. Like it not only did it help improve my learning and therefore my grade in the class, but it also just helped me get to know professors better. And the professors that I've had for my science classes are very intentional about getting to know us and getting to help us in not only the class, but even once we're done with their class, they still are like, come back to office hours, come, hang out. And so it has been honestly not a challenge to like find people to write letters of rec. And so for me, that aspect of it with the professors has been really easy and honestly just really fun.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. We have about 10 minutes left. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will get to as many as we can. The next one we have up here is for students, whether they're seniors in high school or maybe they're early in high school watching this and they're trying to figure out what can I do now to start preparing for college and for pre-med, chemistry, one of the science tracks. Are there internships available for high school students, or what advice would you give to high school students to begin preparing now? Let's go. How about Dr. Huang? Would you mind starting this one?
Yeah, so right now, our internship, it's part of the course curriculum. So that's why I think it's just for our students. So high school, I think it's because there's like liabilities and other issues.
Mhm.
So that's why it's just for our students. But if students are interested in applying for colleges and stuff like that, I think getting strong letters of recommendation from their teachers, that would be very helpful. Study for try to get good grades and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, at least within our majors, to the internships as doing internships for course credit to actually be part of your major
Right.
is something that is possible once you're an upperclassman.
Hmm.
But students can engage in internships even or anytime throughout their college career. And I suppose you could look at it this way. There are different opportunities that may be available to you at different stages.
Hmm.
So if you have, if you're already looking for something, even as a senior in high school, perhaps it's worth looking into something like shadowing, right? Whereas there are other opportunities other ones that might open up where certain places are looking for upperclassmen science majors, for example, right? In college. So
that's great. Thank you. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. I want to be a dermatologist. What major do you think is the best to go into dermatology? I wish I could say I knew science well enough to know who to direct the question to, but I'll let anyone answer.
My understanding is that if you want to become a dermatologist, you do need to go to medical school. So that means that you'd be looking at probably either biology or biochemistry from a pre-med perspective.
Great, thank you. Lauren and Robert, tell me, I hope you're not just students 24/7. Like, I hope you get to like do things on campus. Would you mind just sharing, how have you balanced, clearly you're great students because you're applying and going to grad schools. How have you balanced the academics with student life? And then maybe what are some of the clubs or different things you've been involved in on campus when COVID doesn't make us be remote? When we're in person, what have you been able to get involved with?
Yeah, I can start us off. For me, I think the first semester freshman year took me a little bit of figuring out how to balance those things because it was a bit of a switch coming to college, and I came in from out of state, and so it was a new school, it was new people, and so it did take me a little bit to figure out that balance. But once I did, it wasn't challenging at all. It honestly just takes some time management, and I'm very much like a scheduler, so me scheduling out time to spend on homework versus time to be with friends was kind of the key to me doing that. In terms of some things I've been involved in, I did intramural freshman year, and so I actually did ultimate frisbee, which was really fun and was a really great way to meet people, first of all, because it was freshman year and I still didn't really know anybody. And then I also have been a part of action teams, which I'm not sure if you guys have heard about or read about, but APU sends groups over the summer and over spring break and Thanksgiving to different places all over the world. So I got the opportunity to go to Peru.
Me too. We're in
really?
Peru.
We went in the middle of the rainforest. So
Was it Cusco?
No, we drove through
Oh,
there though.
okay. I did an action team to Peru. Mine was in Lima.
Hey.
Sorry. We can't keep going with your answer. I just connection.
So I got to go to Peru for 6 weeks, which was really, really cool. And I've always been somebody who's loved like missions and that whole aspect. And so the fact that APU had so many options, like I've had friends go places in Africa, places, I think they go Europe and Asia too. So there are lots of different opportunities and there's different length trips. So there's week-long trips, there's 6 weeks. So there's a very big variety, but that is one of the things that I have found outside of the biology chemistry department to be the most fulfilling at APU.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Peru. We'll need to talk about that sometime.
Yes.
Robert, what about you?
Yeah, I think Lauren really hit it on the head with like the like time management stuff. Like you start your freshman year and it like throws you for a loop a little bit. But like you find what works for you. And I mean, like everyone adapts. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Like you'll figure it out. And then like, yeah, like I'm a biochemistry major. I've done honors. I've done a lot of research. Like I've done a lot of outreach and stuff. And like I've always had time for a social life. And like school's never been so overwhelming that like, you know, I couldn't hang out with friends or I couldn't do anything fun. And a lot of times that kind of blurs. Like you find out like you end up studying with people in your class.
Yeah.
And you'll work for a little bit and then you'll talk or you'll go get food.
Oh yeah.
Like it's fun. So like the kind of social life in the school like kind of starts to mix. And like at APU, there's like a lot of stuff going on, like almost every weekend or whatever. Like you can find stuff to do and like you can find people to hang out with. And yeah, there's like the outreach trips, which are really cool. Like I've gone on a couple of trips to like Mexico over like spring break and Thanksgiving break. Those are really fun. Intramurals are really good. I like did a little bit of that. And those are like almost every weekend, like depending on the season. Yeah, and just like honestly, just like hanging around campus, like I feel like if you just like kind of sit down, something like you're gonna find something to do, like something's gonna happen. Like honestly, like somebody will come
Totally.
up to you or whatever. And like I feel like that's one of APU's strong suits too, is just the community. Like it's a lot of good kids and like it is Christ oriented for the most part.
Mhm.
And like in my experience, you know, most people are just like really friendly and it's just a fun environment.
That's great. Along with that, actually, Angie sent in a question just saying what clubs, organizations, fraternities are there available for science specifically? Are there any form of like science cohorts for students that they could become involved in? Feel free, anyone, to tackle that one.
Yeah, I can speak to this one too.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of cool clubs on campus, and I've actually technically I'm president of two clubs right now. One's I know, yeah, one's the pre-dental club, which is kind of self-explanatory, like just a community of students that like pre-dental. And then another club is the Science and Religion Club, and this is a club that I helped found. And it's just a really fun club. It's kind of a mix of like it's kind of faith integration in your classes, but like on steroids and like a little bit cool, like kind of way cooler, honestly. Because what we do is like we take topics in science and like that we've learned in our classes, and then we connect them to like philosophy and culture and faith. And then like we'll do presentations and like a 10-minute presentation, and the whole club will get together and discuss it, and like we'll eat pizza or tacos or something. So like that's one super fun club. I know there's a lot of other clubs that I haven't necessarily attended, but like I've heard really good things about, like Chem Club, and like there's a Lauren can probably talk about like the Future Allied Health Leader Club. But yeah, there's a lot of cool clubs, and the Science and Religion Club and the Pre-Dental Club are the ones that I've been involved in the most. But like I've heard really great things about like all the science clubs, and there's a lot of them.
That's great. So, Lauren, would you mind? He kind of set you up perfectly there.
Yes, there is an allied health club and it's called FALA. And so I was pretty actively involved with it freshman, sophomore year. And we aren't meeting right now because of COVID, but it is really cool. It's a bunch of just other allied health majors and they bring in different OTs, PTs, PAs, and just you get to ask them like, what's your job like? How'd you, wind up as a PA, PT, OT? And so that was really cool to be able to get that perspective. And then I know there also is like a medical fraternity on campus. My friend's actually the president of it, and so I hear a lot about it.
Is that
But
Robert? Is Robert your friend?
no, well, he's
Okay.
my friend, but he's not the friend that leads.
Robert's the president of almost all science clubs on campus.
But yeah, so I know that there is that one, and they do a lot of very cool things through that as well to prep people for medical school.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Chin?
Yes. So definitely the Phi Delta Epsilon, right? The pre-medical fraternity. That's a big one. Another one organization that a lot of students have really gotten involved in is the Sustainability Club. One is the Sustainability Club that's open to actually not just science majors, but all across campus. And they've actually, even during the current situation right now, they've still been meeting weekly online and just hanging out and getting to know each other and sharing interests and information. There's one other club as well, Boundless Brilliance, is a club that's dedicated to STEM outreach, working with local schools and working to inspire kids to consider STEM careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. So those are two other clubs that might be of interest.
That's wonderful. So we've got about 5 minutes left and probably time for one more good question. I always like kind of finishing just by hearing more about why you enjoy either working at APU or attending APU. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing as you reflect on your time at APU, what has been your favorite part about this university? Um, I, yeah, it's sometimes hard for me to narrow it down, but as a applying student, when I talk to applying students, I always say that I want to give them the best picture of APU. I don't need to try to convince them to come to APU. That's not my job. My job is just to provide why I love it and what it can look like for you. So whoever wants to jump in first, feel free to go for it. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind just sharing either favorite part about working at APU or your favorite part about going to APU.
So I'll share. When I came to APU for a job interview, I remember the first time I went to Dr. John Milhan's office, and I see all these banners of all these different schools around in his office. I asked him, "Why do you have all those banners?" And he told me, "Kevin, our student success is my success." And when he told me that, I'm like, wow, I get to be part of helping students be successful in whatever, God prepared them to. And it brought this excitement to me that in my job, I can help students who learn science, but also see them be successful. So that was just a really amazing. So that's why I really enjoy working at APU, to be able to see students be successful, like Robert and Lauren, to see them be successful and being what God has called them to do. So for me, it's very, very exciting.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Lauren?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, there's so many reasons why I love APU and going here, but a few of them, I just feel like for me, it's like comes down to intentionality. And I feel like I kind of mentioned with the professors earlier, I just feel like APU as a whole and the professors specifically are very intentional about my learning and about not only my education, but my spirituality. And I feel like there are so many different opportunities to forward and pursue both of those things. And to me, it really encompasses a very holistic education. And I kind of like Robert was talking about earlier, I feel already very prepared to then go pursue a career in occupational therapy and go to grad school. And so I feel like not only am I a competent student, but I'm a competent person in society and can go and actively participate in different things. And so I feel like that is probably one of my favorite things about being a student here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Robert, tell me about your experience as a student.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is honestly just the people and like the community. Like I feel like you'd get this at any school you went to, but just like the people I've met in my classes, and especially the professors, and like what does set it apart is AP is like it truly is like a Christ-centered community. Like, and you have to go to chapel, and like sometimes it feels like a bear, like whatever. Most of the time it's pretty good. But like either way, like there is like you can feel like kind of the love of Christ, like when you're on campus and just like with most of the people you interact with, like obviously not everyone. But yeah, just like the community from like the majority of the students to every single professor I've interacted with, like you can really see that kind of love of Christ. And like it's not like, oh, everyone wants to be your friend, like, oh, we're all just one happy, like big family. But like it really is a special place and the people really are special.
Yeah. Dr. Chin?
I don't know if I can top that. I enjoy, much like Dr. Huang, I enjoy getting to know students. And I also enjoy or love teaching. And so it's especially when I teach things that sometimes a lot of students might not think they're interested in. Being a plant biologist, it kind of works that way. It kind of comes with the territory. But like, yeah, I guess that's what I would say. Helping students discover cool things that they didn't know before, helping things click, and also seeing students grow. I think that's exciting. Some of the most exciting things for me.
Well, thank you each for being on this panel. This evening, I feel like I've learned a lot. When I host these panels, it just makes me wish I could go back and restart my education. And then I think about how many years that would take, and I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm okay being out of school now. But for those of you watching, if you are currently, if you're watching, we have an event for you, whatever grade you're in. If you're currently an admitted senior, we have something called Choose APU coming up. Emily just put in the chat for a live virtual tour. So you can do a virtual tour where you have a live person, kind of like me, hopefully someone much more articulate and just great, but they will lead you through a virtual tour of campus. If you're an admitted senior, there's something called Choose APU coming up. That is not this week, not next week, but the week after. It is only for admitted seniors. So that means everyone who's attending will also be in that final stage of making the college choice. That will be an amazing opportunity to you get to shadow classes, you get to meet with faculty, meet with students like Robert and Lauren, and just get a feel for a better picture of what APU looks like. We would love for you to join us. So feel free to check those out. If you have any questions, you can email. The emails for all of our panelists were on the slide today. You can also email us in the admissions office at ugadmissions@apu.edu. I'll say it again, ugadmissions@apu.edu. And we would love to answer your questions, get you connected to faculty, get you connected to students to kind of learn more about what life looks like, both in the classrooms at APU and on campus. So again, hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for everything, and we'll talk soon. Bye.